Hello, everyone. And Jen and I are back for our leadership lunch chats.
Hi.
And we are ready to kind of jump right in with what we've been hearing this week. So, Jen, you want to start?
Yeah, well, first of all, congratulations to all the folks that just finished the world's longest busy season. And maybe one of the hardest we've ever had for a whole bunch of reasons. A pandemic, we'll start with pandemic. We'll start with it being stretched and elongated. So you were already kind of deep into it. And then you just it's a little bit like running a marathon, and at mile 20, maybe 20, they said, hey, by the way, you're really running a 50 miler. And you just had to keep going. And so that's tough. And then the racial injustice and civil unrest and, social distancing, all of those things have been weighing on us. And so it just made for a tough, busy season. And I'm super proud of everybody for persevering and getting through it. And now we're on the other side of it. And we have this tiny window of proactivity before we get into all that fall work that we normally do. So I think that's interesting. And I think maybe today one of the things we should talk about is what do you do with that proactivity? And also, how do we try to recover from sort of the mental drain, the overwhelm, the burnout? Maybe you want to lead us in a little discussion of some ideas you have there.
Yeah, I think overwhelmingly the last few weeks, but also we're even seeing at the Engage conference, the conversation come up over and over again of just being overwhelmed. And that's with work, that's with personal lives, and just not having that normal human connection we're used to having. Yeah. So I think it's important for us to look up at what we can control. A lot of times we spend time kind of blaming the outside, right? Like,
yes, for sure.
All of these outside circumstances that have gotten us into this place. But rather than looking internally of where do I need to set boundaries? Where do I need to make sure that I am actually affecting my life in a positive way? And the only way to do that is to take the time to take ownership in your own overwhelm, rather than when we start having conversations daily with our coworkers or our family members or our friends about negative thoughts, negative feelings. All it does is perpetuate it versus taking that same amount of time and going, what can I do? And make some little changes. And it could just be one thing that you do, but starting to put it into play so that you're doing a little, like even if it's 5 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is each day, to start really shifting that feeling of overwhelm. And we have to take ownership in controlling that.
Yeah, so I love all of that. I think you're right on. We have a couple of leadership distinctions we teach, and I feel like you were talking about two of them. And one is I'm 100% responsible for my circumstances, no matter what they are. And not that I'm the cause necessarily, but there are always things I can stop doing or start doing to change my circumstances. I could alter them by doing something different, behaving in some different way. So that's one concept. And the second is I need to own my situation, and I need to be unstoppable, which is my very favorite word in the whole world. If I had to wear one word on my T-shirt for the rest of my life, that would be it, is unstoppable. And we have to be unstoppable, even though circumstances keep throwing up roadblocks to try to stop us. So if really I want to exercise and I feel better when I exercise, but my workload is ridiculous and I'm really struggling to fit it in, I have to be unstoppable. I have to take 100% responsibility, and I have to say, where will I fit it in? Where will I schedule it? How will I make it happen? How can I enroll the people in my lives to get me 30 minutes of exercise or whatever? And I can't sort of just list off all the reasons I can't exercise. So trying to take control or power back helps a lot.
Yeah. And so some of the things, if you figure out what works for you. So the way I like to look at it is kind of going backward rather than forward. So if I want to cultivate a more positive feeling, what are the things that create that for me? So if it is exercising, sleep, reading
Yes.
a book, taking a walk, whatever it is that I know that that shifts my energy, then I work backwards from the feeling that I want to understand what things create that for me, and then start implementing it into my day so that I figure out how to maintain that each day. And we have to be our own parent with this because no one else is going to make sure we do it. And if we want to feel better, we have to take the actions to do that. The other thing about it is, I think there's enough conversation going on in the workplace and in the profession and everywhere else to know that we have to have open communication. So if we're a leader, opening up the communication about it, but even if we're not in a leadership position, finding ways to have open communication with your manager, your coworkers about how you're feeling, what kind of boundaries you need to put on your calendar,
Yes.
so that you start making sure that the workday ends, that there's a real delineation between when you work and, even though you're home, when you're
Yeah.
home, and walking away from the computer. Because when the computer is right there in front of you, it's too easy to say, I'll just check this one email, and then you're there for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So how do you make sure that you kind of, and if you break those boundaries and parameters that you put in for yourself, people will notice. And then what happens is they will just, if you say you're busy, they're going to assume you're not because they know that you answer.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not just the computer. I mean, I have an Ultrabook, so I carry it all over the house, and I work in 25 different stations. To give myself variety of ergonomics and also just a different view. So that thing's pretty portable. It follows me pretty easily, but so does my cell phone. This guy, he's the real culprit of that 24/7. So you're right. If I make a commitment that I am going to be off work, and my team knows that, or my clients know that, but then I break it, they'll break it too. Not just for themselves, but they'll break it for me. They'll be expecting this from me. And so I agree with you there for sure. One of the things I've had to do, I'm sort of addicted to my job, I think is if I'm honest, I love what I do, and there's a high volume of it, so I could just never be finished. And so what I've had to do to try to manage myself and make the other people in my life happy that aren't work related is commit one weekend day every single weekend, no matter what, that I'm completely off. Mm-hmm. That I just am not responding. I'm not looking. I'm not reading. I'm not working. I don't, the laptop's closed. If I'm on the cell phone, I am not looking at email. I'm not out there working. And I find that really easy to do. It's not hard for me. And in fact, sometimes it'll bleed into the next day where I'm like, I don't want to work today either. And then I'll take that second day or 2/3 of the second day or whatever, maybe log in and clean up a little bit Sunday night. But that's been really big for me. Just, and for some people, they'd be like, geez, one weekend day, isn't enough. I need like two, and that's fine. I'm not prescribing. Everybody's different. But for me, it's sort of sacred. And when I do that, it really gives me that break I need, the mental break I need. I come back a lot more refreshed than just staying connected and just answering emails. Right. It's no big deal. I'm not really doing hard work. I'm just answering emails. Well, your brain's processing on work then. And I think that's bad.
Well, and I think it's important to not have judgment about if it's one day or 2 days or maybe the middle of the week. That's another thing we have to forgive ourselves about, that the day looks a little bit different. And I know this has been probably a generational issue in a lot of workplaces, but many people are used to the FaceTime and monitoring people working.
Yes.
And in a remote workplace, and with all the demands people have coming at them, that there isn't a 8 to 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever time you end. And everybody has to be flexible with working different hours. And so how do you go to not micromanaging those people, right? Is that you've got to start learning to trust and set the right guidelines and check-ins to make sure work is getting done. But it is a hard practice, again, to try to pull yourself back from something that you're used to doing, or you're used to being able to see work getting done and so forth. So, technology plays a great role in helping us to be able to monitor work if we put that in the right way. But in this new era of most workplaces still being fairly remote, we have to figure out how we better lead during this and get more acceptance for different work styles, different work times, and even for ourselves, that if we take a morning off on a Wednesday, we're still like getting the work done and not to feel bad.
Oh, for sure. And, I feel like you're teaching my Engage session that's coming up. I'm serious. I'm like, maybe Amy could show up for that. A couple of thoughts there on that. One is what you're talking about is what we would call personalization or customization. Forever, we've talked about talent management as one size fits one. We want it to be one size fits all because it's so much more efficient, but it just isn't. That's not real. And everybody's circumstances are different. And so we have to customize our expectations for their reality. And if their reality is that their husband and wife are both at home with kids, and there's homeschooling, or there's focused childcare needed, they don't have childcare because of the pandemic, then you have to figure out if they're going to work like your person that works for you in that situation. They might not be getting to work until 11 a.m. or something. They split the morning and they split the afternoon with their spouse or significant other, and that's fine. Who cares? In our workplace, we're a completely anytime, anywhere work, completely remote, have been the whole time. We're super transparent. Back when I was getting my nails done, I put my nail appointments on there, and they were, by the way, during the business day often, because that's when I could get in. They take an hour. My team would know that I could talk to them, but they'd have to deal with drill noise in the background. I would put on their nail appointment, so they knew what I was up to. I practice yoga and have for 21 years with a woman named Melanie, and we practice 6 to 8 times a month. With my work schedule, that timing varies what day of the week it is and what time of the day it is. And sometimes it's right in the middle of the day on a weekday. I put yoga for 90 minutes out there on my calendar, and I go do it. And my team, there's no shame in that. They know I'm getting my work done. And because I do that as a leader in the firm, they can do it too. And, I prefer to work late nights. Renee on our team sometimes sends me emails at 4:30 in the morning. That's when she gets up. So we try really hard to just accept and embrace each other's work styles and the things we're doing to feel good as well as be good. And we just try to be accepting of that and non-judgmental and be communicative, though, so we're not wondering.
Well, and I think that's an important thing that you said, is leading by example, right? Like if you say it's okay to have a flexible schedule and do that, if the leader isn't doing it, then no one feels they have the permission to do it themselves, or they start feeling guilt. And the other thing that I hear a lot from people is just making up their own stories in their head of what they think other people expect of them.
Yes.
And a lot of times you don't even know that someone working for you thinks that you're expecting something that you weren't expecting.
My truth is not the truth. We say that all the time, and we make such crazy stuff up in our heads. There's so much assumption and story happening in our inner dialogue, and we think we know what's expected of us, and so we make it up, and then we resent it even, but we've never explicitly discussed it. And there's nothing more important in healthy work relationships, not just remote work and not just during a pandemic, just healthy work relationships and honest communication and clarity of expectation. Here's what I think you're expecting, and here's why it doesn't work for me. Or what are you expecting, and how can we make it work?
Yeah.
So anyway, I just think that's so interesting. It made me laugh the way you said it, because it's so true. I make it up.
Yeah. Well, and so just shifting gears a little bit, we have both been a part of AICP Engaged this week. You've got a session today as well.
Yes.
I've been also doing some virtual yoga sessions during breaks, so that's been fun to do. But really, when we look at a conference like that, and there's so many events that have been canceled, whether it's entertainment events, sporting events, conferences that we usually get to see our friends and so forth. The innovation, the rapid innovation that's happening right now to start trying to make us feel like we're still connected and doing that, I think is awesome, because it's where we need to be. But what are you doing to still feel connected to people right now? Because I think all of us have this, urge and need. I mean, I was actually supposed to go out of town this weekend, and then the governor came out and said, if you went there, you'd have to quarantine for 14 days when you got back. So I'm already feeling, sad that I didn't get to go and see my friends and so forth.
Lockdown. You're in lockdown. You're getting closer to lockdown again. Well, first of all, if you're allowed in your environment, one of the things I'm doing locally is trying to social distance outside right now. My parents are 90 and I can't be around them unless I have a mask on. But I do bring them food, and I do participate with them regularly all week. They live on their own. But I spent a fair amount of time getting their outdoor living space cleaned up and ready, and got all their furniture out and their umbrella up and all those things, so that I could go over there and sit 10 or 12 feet away from them without our masks on and drink coffee and hang out, and it's hot now, so it's a little bit painful, but just so we could feel a little normal. And I could be with them in a more relaxed setting and eat and drink, which I can't do when we're in the house. I can't take that mask off, and they can't take theirs off either. So that's something I'm trying to figure out. Like, hey, come over to my house. We have this big cement pad on our driveway up top, flat, and I come over here, and we've got chairs and an umbrella and things, and I can have, I don't know, 15 people from my family if we want to, all sitting 10 or 12 feet apart, and talking. And that feels a little normal. As it relates to work relationships, I'm doing things like this, this is how you and I have connected. I'm trying to have virtual lunches or coffees with people. People are getting Zoom burnout. So, a real novel thing to do right now is to have a phone call.
While you go out for a walk.
Yeah.
So that you're moving and you feel you're outside and getting some air.
I also, like I said, I have all these stations. I've set up my house so I can work anywhere, and I have an outdoor living space, and I've made it so that I can get wireless out there, and I work outside sometimes, and I hang out with people. We've been meditating. I've said that a few times in our Friday chats as a team. We do a team meditation on Zoom, and we're using the Calm app. I try to always do that outside where my fountains are, and so just different things to pay attention to, things that make me feel good, like you said earlier. And for me, being outside, being near nature, being near my gardens, those things make me feel good. So I'm trying hard to figure out how can I hang out with people in that way, but still be safe.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, taking advantage of this time where you can work outside if you can, that your technology is good enough to do that, but it's important to kind of just shake up your day, that not sitting in one spot
for sure
all day. But like you said, just picking up the phone and having an actual conversation
without
is nice
video,
too.
without
And not forgetting to just talk, that not everything has to be work related. And monitoring the conversation about how negative it gets versus how, because that can feed into your energy level. So it's important to make sure that you figure out how to talk positive as well, about what positive things are happening in your life too.
Yeah, it's very easy when you reconnect with people, like, how are you coping? And then there's like what we call in our business, then we have to have a COVID talk,
Yeah.
And we try to limit how much we really are going to allow that to happen in the rapport part of a conversation, because it can spiral into negative. It also is just like revisiting overwhelming stuff.
Things you cannot control.
Right. And it doesn't usually, it's not a true segue into the conversation.
No.
Like, whatever I'm really connecting with you with on business, it's important to know how you're doing. And it's important to understand sort of, how you're coping, but to spend too much time like trading statistics and, that stuff, that'll just drag you down the drain. So we'll be like, let's terminate the COVID talk now.
Yeah.
We've done 4 minutes of COVID talk. That's all we get. That's our quota. So
exactly.
Just to make sure and to monitor that, because I don't think some people pay attention to it. They don't realize they're doing it.
Right. Well, I think we're at the end of our time. So always great to chat and share. And everybody that's listening, feel free to give us comments and suggestions of things you want us to talk about coming up, because we missed a whole lot of things we still wanted to talk about today. So we'll have it up for upcoming weeks. All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Take care.